My name's Michaela, and the chapter I got off of Foster's Reading Literature Like a Professor was chapter 5. Now, where have I seen her before? In chapter 5, Now, Where Have I Seen Her Before? It talks about how you can better understand literature by finding and understanding the literary references found within it. In literary references, you can have things like similar characteristics of your characters, historical references talking about things that might have happened in the past or in historical books, the name or comparisons of two different characters or a plot twist, and you can have the dynamic and static characteristics of your main character or a surrounding supporting characters. You can also have personal experiences, adventures, and journeys. To me, these all build up the story because, if you're in a haunted house and you've never been to a haunted house before, and it's got, those weird, clown mirrors, those are going to make you feel like you're somewhere else. Like, you're really confused. It's, this new place that you're going into, and you might not really want to be there. It's kind of weird, kind of like a Wonder World sort of thing. To me, being in a haunted house, I don't like it. It's kind of creepy, and it reminds me of when Jack Skellington is dropped into the Christmas world when he goes into the forest. He doesn't know where he is. To him, it's whoa, really weird. I don't know. To me, that adds to the plot of your movie. If you're so, freaked out and you don't know what's happening, and you can immediately reference or relate that to another movie or literary example that you've seen. I have the supporting quote of, "Lose the personal details, consider her as a type, and try to think where you've seen the type before. A brown-skinned young woman guiding a group of white men, mostly white anyway, speaking the language they don't know, knowing where to go, where to find food, and taking them west, right?" This is found in How to Read Literature Like a Professor by Foster on page 19. Other things and examples of how to read literature like a professor are quotes such as, "Literature, as the great Canadian critic Northrop Frye observed, grows out of other literature. We should not be surprised to find, then, that it also looks like other literature. As you read, it may pay to remember this. There's no such thing as a wholly original work of literature." To me, this is a very self-serving quote. I didn't feel like there was anything that really needed to be added to this, because you're right. If you think about it, have you ever seen one work of art that doesn't borrow elements of another painting? It's the same thing with literature. Literary works, such as movies, aren't going to be the amazing movie they are if they didn't borrow elements that other people liked from other movies or books. There's also examples like this within Peace Like a River. One example is whenever you have the quote, "Somehow he was holding the little Winchester. Then he lifted the bat, the knothead, and Davy fired, and Israel went backward into Tommy Basket, and Davy levered up a second and fired." To me, from reading the book The Outsiders and watching the movie, it is one of my favorite movies and books to read. It has so much action in it. And to me, this is the same as when Johnny Cade in The Outsiders stabs the Soch that's drowning Ponyboy, one of his family members, one of the few boys that he's actually really close with because of his home situation in the fountain, and he kills him. Both of these boys are defending what is theirs. They're defending their family, the people that they love. And although it might not be lawfully right, it's morally right for them. They're doing what they believe is right in the moment to protect who they love. Another reference that was in the book Peace Like a River is whenever Reuben talks about how when Mr. Lurvy comes over, the soup is not only feeding them, but it's feeding Lurvy as well. He says, "The image stopped my supper then and there, but had no effect on Sweet, who ate, I believe, 3 bowls. Later, after cake, when Lurvy had gone, Dad admitted he'd had 2 bowls of soup, despite the morbid narrative. All this from a pot of soup meant to feed the 4 of us, and no more." This is found on page 47 of Peace Like a River. To me, this references the story in the Bible where Jesus feeds the crowd of 5,000. The important piece of this this quote that I have is, "They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children." There's also an important piece at the beginning that we need to understand, the reference that says, "We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." The fact that they started out with this many and ended up feeding 5,000 is the same as the pot of soup that was meant to feed only the 4 family members and ended up feeding Levi and the 4 family members and having some left over in the pot when Reuben went to put it away. This helped me understand just how much they were building up Jeremiah land to be a prophet figure within the story. There's also things within other literary examples, such as TV shows that reference back to the movie and book Peace Like a River, such as in Vampire Diaries, when Damon the vampire goes inside of Rose's head while she's dying to help her have a silent and peaceful death and to be at peace. She says, "This was my favorite place to come as a girl. Am I dreaming? I'd like to enjoy the fresh air. Will you enjoy it with me?" Damon says, "For a while." This is an example of a reference from the book and in the TV show because he's giving her this homely place. The reference in the quote that I used from Peace Like River was, Harder was describing that land itself, its upward running river, its people on the move, and ground astir with song. For just as that music stays outside the pattern I would give it, so does my telling fall pitifully short of what the place is, what moral creations are language and memory. Page 310 of Peace Like River by Inger Leaf. This is an example because these two quotes go together for me because he's explaining this heavenly, magical place that he was in with his father. And his father gets to die in peace because they're in this beautiful, beautiful place. And just like Damon leaves Rose, Reuben then leaves Jeremiah and continues to live on, even though he shouldn't have. There's also references in modern day things, such as The Nightmare Before Christmas that is referenced in the song I Miss You by Blink-182. In the song, it says, "We can live like Jack and Sally if we want, where you can always find me, and we'll have Halloween on Christmas." This is a reference to The Nightmare Before Christmas because it's talking about how they can basically live however they want, because in the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack and Sally end up having this weird, love interest, and Jack goes and he delivers these creepy presents on Christmas, and he, makes Christmas his own. He wants to be known for his own holiday. There's also a reference between, There's also references between movies and movies and books and books. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a song in a book or a book in a movie. The reason that I feel you should use literature is because it gives you a deeper meaning and it helps you to further understand the text. To me, I don't particularly like reading, and when I see historical references or even historical similarities within a book, I love history and it makes me want to read it. It hooks me into the book and makes me want to finish it. It also helps me to pay attention to it, and the more I pay attention to the book, the more I can then see the references from maybe that book in other TV shows and references I'm watching. To basically sum up my chapter, I would say that using literary references from your work or from other works within your work helps readers and writers to further understand the text that you're writing, or the song that you're making, or the movie that you're filming.